So some people in this world claim that only the threat of hell can provide sufficient motivation for repentance, because otherwise we would never choose repentance. We are just so dispositioned for wrong. Has anyone seen Fireproof, that movie that just came out about marriage? Okay, well, I had heard a lot about the movie, and I just watched it recently. This is how the father explains his faith to his son in the movie, if you ever get to watch it. It's about, you can never measure up to God's goodness, and that's why we need salvation. And that's pretty much where this world is coming from. So there's a strong distinction between believer and non-believer, and there's an emphasis on the response to the gospel. They may use the power to keep the unrighteous from prevailing because they're very concerned with holiness. And there may be some guilt-ridden messages, possibly some incapacitating self-images. Not necessarily. The essential question for this world is, who can restore me? And the general feeling is that of guilt, so that there is an identity of a fugitive. Now, it's, when you talk about not being able to measure up to God's standards, you may picture a judgmental God. This is not necessarily a judgmental God for the people in this world. It may be just an agonizing God who sees how much you've messed up, how much you need salvation, and who needs to extend and reach for you, so that salvation is only possible through God's intervention. And resolution takes place only when one is absolutely broken. So prayer of confession and absolution is really important for people in this world, and they really feel the need for reconciliation with God and maybe with other people, so that there's an emphasis on proclamation of the gospel and making sure that everybody hears and repents. It centers in the gift of forgiveness, the need for atonement, and leads to feeling accepted, adopted, and claimed by God. This is a lot of the Protestant evangelical churches have this feeling, and so a lot of the revival messages that you hear in evangelistic sermons come out of this world. Comforting words at funeral would be that they are trusting God's promise of forgiveness, atonement, and acceptance, and they have been reconciled. Chris Rice has a song, Clumsy, and I'm using contemporary worship because that's my generation. I'm sorry if it doesn't, I thought about using hymns, but I thought that these really describe some of these well, so you may find them somewhere else. But here he says, reaching out for that same old piece of forbidden fruit, I slip and fall and I knock my halo loose. Again, so he's struggling with his inner disposition to do wrong over and over again. He says, I'm going to get it right this time. I'll be strong. I'll make you proud. I've prayed that prayer 1,000 times, but the rooster crows and my tears roll down again. And he's finding resolution, knowing that I can never, it'll never be good enough. My only hope is to follow in Jesus. So you see how he's working that out. We're finally at World 5, which is in the rhythms of suffering and endurance. And this is a picture by Rembrandt called An Old Woman Cutting Her Nails. And the reason that Jones talks about Rembrandt being, people in this world being drawn to these pictures is the simplicity of it and just the light from within coming out of this woman. The human problem here is meaninglessness experienced as engulfment, and that is feeling like life is a predator or that there is a heaviness to daily living. People in this world just feel like whatever can go wrong will go wrong. Life is just hard, it's the way it is, and it's just going to be difficult, so you've just got to deal with it. This stress often is the best defense against being done in. So if I don't have any expectations and if I don't trust anybody, then I can't be disappointed, right? So that's where it's coming from. You just protect yourself and you survive. Who saw the ABC story on Appalachian culture? Yeah, a couple days ago. This is very much the Appalachian culture world, if you're going to talk in general terms. In the story, I don't remember who the professor was. It was a UK professor, I think. He was talking about first you try to change things, how things are. When that doesn't happen and you realize that things can't change, then you just try to survive. And that's where this world is coming from. It's about survival in a difficult world. And actually, John's, when he's talking about this world, the example that he gives is the mining community. He talks about how every morning when people go to work, they do their farewells, always knowing that it could be permanent, or at least, very much in years gone by, that was even more prevalent when it was even more dangerous to work in the mines. But he talks about how it's always bittersweet goodbye, and there's always that knowing that things can go terribly wrong at any time, and that nobody's immune to suffering. And so that brings an endurance of suffering as a refining fire. And what you need to do is survive with integrity. There's no hope for change, so you can't change reality. You don't change your perspective, really. You just acknowledge that nothing can be done. And what you do is you focus one day at a time. You just keep on keeping on. This leads to deep empathy for others and generosity. And also no complaining. If there's nothing you can do about it, and if you need to suffer with integrity, you just don't complain, you don't talk about it. People get hurt, you just take it and you go on. He told me this story one time that I thought was interesting, that when he was in high school, he was sent to detention for something that he did not do. And so he told his dad, I did not do this. And they're sending me to detention, I need to talk to them. And his dad said, son, you just go on, because sometime you might have done something that you didn't get caught for, so you just, it's just even, make it even. So that's kind of how it is. You don't complain, you don't protest, you just go on with the flow. So he went to detention. The essential question here is, can I make it? And also, who is with me? Am I a victim alone? Because this world finds connectedness in the fiber of the strength of persons. General feeling is being overwhelmed, and having the identity of a victim or a refugee. And the example that Jones gives is like walking on tiptoe across the water with all your possessions on your head, knowing that you can slip and fall at any moment. It's that kind of tension that you've just got to be really careful. Suffering is central, but you can have the feeling that God is suffering with us, or the belief that God is suffering with us, and that can give a lot of strength in knowing that God is with us, and that there are other people who are with us too. There's a lot of patience, determination. Travail can bring healing, so you suffer with integrity. Of course, if the risk is also to become overextended or burned out. Any change may present a crisis of faith because they're used to things the way they are. It's not about quantity of life, but about the quality of living. They have trouble asking anything for themselves. We see that a lot with our patients in Corbin. Resolution varies on the theme of resoluteness, steadfast will, integrity, and tenacity, and leads to feeling befriended, strengthened, being annealed. They are very much team people. They want to feel connected in the community. And the comforting words for them at the funeral would be, "It is finished," and they have lived with integrity. I think Amy Grant, a lot of her songs seem to come from this world, and this is one of them called "Somewhere Down the Road," about so much pain, no good reason why. And you just say, why does it go this way? But you just keep on walking. She says, sometime, somewhere down the road, there'll be answers to these questions. But now I see the learning never ends. All I know to do is keep on walking. So that's kind of what you do. You just keep on walking and keep keep going. So to finish this up, I just wanted to compare the worlds for you a little bit so you can kind of get a better picture. World 1, 2, and 5, it's more about the external struggle. With World 1, it's about the cosmos, and it's a paradox. Things are this way, but they could just as well be another way, and you change your perspective. In World 2, there's a resistance. Things are this way, and they should not be this way, and I'm going to change them. Okay? In World 5, it's resignation. Things are this way. There's nothing I can do about it. They're just going to be this way. With World 3 and 4, it's more about an internal struggle. But in World 3, it's about self-realization. And World 4 is about self-sacrifice. And I think the difference here so much is that in World 4, there's the inner disposition to do wrong, so there's evil inside of us. While in World 3, the real evil is not to be true to your own self. It's that to thine own self be true kind of feeling. So that kind of puts it together. The 3 and 1 share a little bit of similarities about feeling a little invisible, but he says in World 1, it's like you're looking from the outside into a room full of people. And in World 3, you're inside the room, but you're invisible. Nobody looks at you. So that's kind of the difference between the two of them. Well, thank you very much.